Okay, hello everyone. Today is the first happy hormone hour here in Hormonoscope. And right now it's just me, so I decided to take this time to answer a question that came in through Mighty Networks. And this came in from Andrea, one of our members. And so I wanted to sort of take some time to discuss this topic because she was wondering about ways to regulate your cycle. And that is a topic that is super expansive. It's pretty much exactly what we're working on here in Hormonoscope. So I want to break down 4 steps that you can take right now to start regulating your cycle, to start having more of a, let's say, normal bleed. Because we had a text in Hormonoscope about a month ago that described what a healthy and normal bleed looks like. And I will reiterate that here for anyone who didn't get that text or who doesn't remember. A normal, and I use the quotes normal because the word normal is, I have problems with the word normal, but when we want to regulate our cycle, we're aiming for a bleed of 5 to 7 days that starts off heavier in the beginning and then slowly tapers off. We want our blood to be flowing freely and for the color to look like a dark to cherry red. Okay, too light or too dark is not what we want to see. We want to be right in the middle, and we want it to look something like cherry juice. And we shouldn't have pain. We shouldn't have a lot of cramping or just uncomfortability during our bleed. And it's normal to feel like some movement and some slight cramps, but it shouldn't be anything that really interferes with your daily life. It shouldn't be anything that keeps you, on the couch or in bed all day. It just should be something that reminds you that this is happening, but it shouldn't be like, I'm in so much pain, I can't function right now. So that being said, most women are struggling with having bleeds that are not like that. And that is why we're here. That's why we have come together to learn about our cycles, because you can absolutely take this, whatever you're working with your menstrual cycle, you can take it into your own hands and you can find ways to work with it, find ways to balance. It's absolutely possible. Don't let anyone ever tell you that it's not possible for you to do that for yourself. Now, it will take work. It will take a mindset shift, because currently I find that the mindset that prevails and the mindset that I used to be in was that our cycles are a nuisance. Our cycles should not be something that ever holds us back. It should be something we don't think about. It should be something that we don't want to really work with or live by, because we don't want to be held down by our cycles. We're women, yes, but we're equal. And we don't want to be ever put into a box because of our menstrual cycles, right? There has been a lot of pain surrounding equality and menstrual cycles. There have been, people who have said things about women not being capable of leading or not capable of governing because they have menstrual cycles. Now, obviously, this is a very misogynistic belief, and it's something that we need to actively work to rewire in our own brains, because we may not realize how deep these beliefs truly go in our own brains. They are implanted in there because they are very prevalent in our society. And we grew up in this society from a young age. We were impressionable. So we can't blame ourselves for having these thoughts and beliefs, but we do need to take responsibility for them so that we can work with them and we can walk them back, and that we can take control over our health, our menstrual health, especially because it really all does stem from there. So I hope that explanation inspires you into thinking about ways that you can take back some of the responsibility for your health. If you're someone who hasn't wanted to think about it, or if you're someone who feels like they've given away some of that responsibility to other people, and now recognize that whatever is going on for you is something that you can absolutely be your own heroine and work through on your own. And of course, I'm here to guide you. Hormonoscope is here to provide a community and support. And we really want all of these menstruators that are in here to feel supported through this educational journey and through what we're learning in our texts and our about our phases. So 4 things that I'm going to touch on today about walking through regulating your menstrual cycle. So the first thing that I'm going to cover is understanding your stressors and things that cause dysregulation of your cycle. And also want to touch on hormonal fluctuations that some of you may be dealing with and learning your phases. So this is going to be the first part of what I'm going to describe. So when it comes to having a dysregulated cycle, most women are struggling with chronic stress. And chronic stress is a major hormonal disruptor. So if you have chronic stress, and a lot of us do, then that stress is messing with your hormones. So to put it simply, our adrenals make a hormone called cortisol, but they're also responsible for making the other hormones that we need to function on a daily basis. So our sex hormones are included in that. And when it comes to having high cortisol, which is what chronic stress is, it's chronically elevated cortisol, the stress hormone. When our adrenals are busy making cortisol because we're stressed and we feel that we have to respond to stressors in our daily lives, even if they look like being in traffic and feeling stressed about that, what it does is it takes away from our adrenals' ability to produce our other sex hormones. So you can see how this would set off a train of reactions, because anytime that one hormone is thrown off, the other hormones are going to respond and are going to have some imbalance in response to the other hormone being off. So it really is a chain reaction. It really, backs up the belief of looking at the body as a whole, looking at the body as a system, because it really, really is. One thing really affects the others. So having chronic stress is something that you may need to look at your life and think about the ways that you're feeling stressed. Think about the things that are bringing stress into your life that you need to work through and that you need to find a way to set aside, because at this point, if you are chronically stressed and your hormones are disrupted because of it, your body is asking you to listen. Your body is telling you that something is wrong, and it's basically your health or your responsibilities and the things that you feel like you need to do, and the things that maybe you feel as if you have to do, or you've been conditioned to feel like you have to do more. But we really all need to be the ones prioritizing our health, because again, no one else is going to do that for us. So note on chronic stress, because it really is something that so many of us are dealing with on a daily basis these days. Now, I want to also address those who have hormonal imbalances that have started from a very young age. So if you had hormonal imbalance from the time that around the time that you started your period and you went through menarche, then you may be feeling as if your hormones started off kind of wacky. So you maybe not understand what it is to have a regulated cycle. And then you walked through life. Not only has it impacted your daily life, but maybe it's gotten worse. And maybe it's something where you've already gone to doctors, you've already tried to find answers, and no one is giving you any answers. If this is where you're at, I greatly feel for you, because I was in the same space and I really quite understand what it's like to be in that space. And it's a very tough place to be. But again, I want to remind you of what I said at the beginning. There is nothing that you cannot work with to improve your cycle. There is nothing that you cannot do to improve your cycle. So now, meaning that you absolutely can find improvement in your life and in your cycle. And it's just going to be a matter of working with it and really, really making that decision that this is important enough to change some of the lifestyle factors that are not supporting the hormones. Our lives are adverse to hormone balance, not the other way around. It is not our hormones that are disrupting our life. It is our life that's disrupting our hormones. So that's where we need to start when we start thinking about changes that we need to make. So when it comes to our menstrual cycle, as you should know, we go through 4 phases of our hormone levels each month. So the menstrual phase, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, and the luteal phase. That is something that we focus very, very heavily on here in Hormonoscope. So when it comes to going through these phases, we need to understand that the first step of supporting our hormones is living a lifestyle that is more representative of where we're at in our cycle. So, for example, a really easy example is when you're in your menstrual phase, you need to be resting. You need to be taking it easy. You need to listen to your body, because naturally what your body's going through as it's shedding the uterine lining is very tough. It is excruciating. It is hard work for your body. It is a lot. And I know we haven't been raised to think of it as that way. We've just been raised to think of it as just another thing that happens to us, and it's what makes us a woman. But I'm telling you, it's a big deal. And when your body is called to rest, your body needs to rest. It's telling you something. So that's a really easy example of something that you can do today if you're in your menstrual phase, or wait until you are, and you can start to implement this really quickly and really easy into your life and really, really have an improvement from that. So I'm not going to go too much deeper into the phases right now, because this is what we cover all week long in Hormonoscope in our texts. So we're just going to start with talking about endocrine disruptors, which is something that you may not be aware of, but these are things that can really impact your hormones. So we know a lot of us have hormonal imbalance, and chronic stress is a huge part to play in it. Now, another thing that causes chronic stress is things like endocrine disruptors that actually disrupt your hormones. So things like estrogen, estrogen mimicking like chemicals in plastic, in cosmetics, parabens like preservatives, colors, fake colors, chemicals, things like that. All of these things can be really disruptive to our body. The one thing that artificial estrogen does is it binds to estrogen receptors in the body and essentially makes it so that your brain thinks that it has the estrogen that it needs, but it wants to make more estrogen because it hasn't yet. And then it actually makes too much estrogen. And so you go into a state of estrogen dominance. So something that you may not know is that a very common condition, endometriosis, is caused by excess estrogen. Now, it's not too clear why this happens, but for some women, endometrial tissue, which is what normally cycles with the body, gets stuck in other parts of your body. So you can imagine how estrogen, which makes things grow and become more prevalent, will actually worsen endometriosis, because in endometriosis, you have too much of this endometrial lining. It is painful and it is stuck in places it does not belong. So doing something like removing endocrine disruptors from your current lifestyle is a huge part to play. And this also goes along with removing things like processed foods, refined oils, and gluten and dairy are typically 2 things that do react for women. Now, if it's something that you've tried and you didn't feel like you had a sensitivity to it, then I encourage you to keep going with it and pay close attention. But when you're starting out, if you feel like you have a lot of inflammation in your body, Removing gluten and dairy is usually a safe place to start because that is usually one of the main culprits. So this goes right into my next number 3 about eating. Eating and the way that you eat and the food that you put into your body is extremely indicative of what your life and your hormone health is going to look like. Now, I have a teacher who said that she believes, she's a doctor and she's been a doctor for over 50 years, said that she believes that 80% of women's health issues come from what they put into their body. So you start thinking about the way that you're eating. And if you consider yourself a healthy eater, I would ask you to think about whether or not you're eating enough. Your blood sugar being balanced is a huge thing for health, for hormone health. So that's 3 meals a day plus snacks in between when you get hungry. And it's also a matter of eating enough food. So it's, for your body, try to lean into intuitive eating. And that can be as simple as just eating what feels right. And you can get some help from our texts and the cycle chart that we have in the Hormonoscope group of what to eat during each phase, but also leaning into eating enough and then eating until you feel full. And if you're someone who gets full easily and quickly like me, then just make sure that you're eating again in the next hour or 2. You are the person who gets to decide how you're going to eat and how you're going to adjust this. And I found that even before I learned about all of the foods that supported my cycle, I was craving those foods when I was in the different phases because it was just what my body felt like it wanted and needed. So as soon as you start, you just have to take the first step. And it's sort of a domino effect. It will just come forward and then you're going to feel like so much momentum. You're going to be craving the foods. You're going to be feeling how good it feels to eat them. And you're also going to learn about keeping foods on hand that you want to eat. And then when you have foods on hand and they're accessible, it makes it so much easier to make those choices that keep us away from things like fast food, prepared food, packaged food, etc., which are obviously huge red flags when it comes to eating healthy because we don't really know what's in that food. Let's be honest, right? So that is a huge, huge portion of it. Eating is everything. And it's something that's really practical that you can do to really make sure that you're giving your hormones the best bet that they can get. Now, the last thing I'm going to cover is exercise regimen. Now, we'll go through the phases again. So we talked about the menstrual phase. We talked about resting. Another great thing to do during the menstrual phase is walking, reflecting, exercising your mind, journaling. Those are all very low impact and things that you can do without needing a ton of energy, right? Like in your menstrual phase, you're going to be more tired. And I don't want you to turn to drinking a bunch of caffeine because you feel like you need to have that sort of same energy that you have in the follicular or the ovulatory phase or even early luteal. Again, our lifestyles are not conducive to hormone balance. And we need to be the ones who set them right and who set them in the way that helps our hormones. Because quite honestly, if we don't, we're not going to be functional and we're not going to be effective human beings in anything that we're doing. It's just the fact. So a little bit of a tough love for you. It's just a fact. We really, really need to be responsible for helping our hormones function optimally. Otherwise, those things that you're prioritizing now are not going to be there when your hormones are struggling and you're not feeling like the best version of yourself or emotionally or mentally capable of pulling it together and continuing on. So my goal is to help you stop that train before it goes too far off the tracks, because I know that your hormones are talking to you. And if you don't listen, they're going to get louder. So exercising in the follicular phase. It's a great time when energy is rising to be running, to be doing some strength training, something that requires a little bit more energy, something that has you really feeling good about flexing your muscles and using your muscles and just moving, getting a lot of energy out. If you like jogging, go for it. If you like fast walking, go for it. And if you don't like those things naturally, put on a podcast or some music, or even talk to yourself in a voice memo. Make it a little bit more interesting for yourself, like as if you're enjoying time with a friend, or if you're, talking to yourself, you're doing some voice journaling. Do whatever you need to do to get out there and to get that energy burned off, because this is really going to support the energy that you have, so you don't feel restless, so you don't feel anxious. Now, then when we move into ovulation, it's a great time to do things like Zumba. It's a great time to do like active yoga. It's a good time to do any group classes that you've been wanting to try. Anything sort of social and like enjoyable is really going to feed what your body wants during this time. And then in the luteal phase, it's a good time to sort of start to tone it down a bit as your energy tones down. So right after you ovulate, then your hormones kind of start going down a bit, and then they peak up a little bit about around day 21. And then from that point, if your cycle was 28 days, from that point of 21 days, then you're going to start to drop again. Your hormones are just going to start to go bloop until you hit your menstrual, which is the lowest point of all of your hormones, is what signals your bleed to come. Super interesting, right? But when you're in the early luteal phase, which is anywhere from like 18 to 20 days of your cycle, then that is the time that you want to sort of continue to lean into strength training, Pilates, maybe some, weightlifting, whatever it is that you really enjoy. HIIT is a good thing too. And then as you get into the later luteal phase, like past day 23, 24, 25, then it's a good time to start slowing down again. Yoga is still a really good one. Anything that challenges you slightly, but doesn't require you to really push and to really like work hard. And if you're someone who knows their hormones are really imbalanced and you're really struggling to like even exercise, like it's like you almost feel worse after you exercise, or you're noticing that you're trying to lose weight and you're not losing weight, I have a great post in the Mighty Networks group. And it is all about exercise and why, if your hormones are imbalanced, it's actually not a good idea to exercise longer than 30 minutes of strenuous exercise, because that can actually lead to weight gain. So definitely make sure that you check out that post. I will pin it in the group so that you can go check it out after you watch this video. So that's about what I have for you today. And I hope that this answers your question, Andrea, and everyone else who watched this. I hope that you benefit from it. And if you have any further questions, please drop them in the comments or the chat, or just send them in the Hormonoscope group, because I am going to answer them at the next Happy Hormone Hour. So thanks for popping on. Thanks for watching. And I will talk to you all very, very soon.